Hello, everyone.
My wife, Anna, and I had been married for 11 years, and every Saturday we kept a tradition of having dinner at our favorite restaurant with our 7-year-old son, Ethan. We met back in high school, drawn together by a shared love of literature. In those early days, we spent countless hours talking, supporting each other through tough exams, and discovering the spark of young love. Over the years, I thought our bond only grew stronger, but looking back now, I see there were signs that something was not quite right, signs I chose to ignore. Anna was always the social type, enjoying her nights out with friends and colleagues from work. I never really minded. I trusted her completely. Sundays were sacred, though, and nothing seemed capable of disrupting that family tradition. But lately, I started noticing small changes in Anna's behavior. She was more distracted than usual. Her phone seemed glued to her hand, and she often drifted off, lost in thought. I figured it was just the stress from her demanding marketing job. Then there was one particular Saturday that sticks out in my memory. We were at the restaurant, and Anna seemed especially on edge. She kept glancing at her phone and excused herself to the restroom more often than usual. When I asked if everything was okay, she just gave me a tired smile and said she was feeling a bit under the weather. I let it go, not wanting to ruin our evening, but I could not shake this nagging feeling. The next week, I decided to surprise Anna by picking her up from work and taking her out to a different restaurant for dinner. When I walked into her office building's lobby, I saw her getting into a car with a man I had never seen before. They were laughing, looking really comfortable with each other. My heart sank, but I told myself it was just a harmless ride home from a coworker. Despite my growing suspicions, I never expected what was to come. Anna and I kept up with our Saturday dinners, but the atmosphere had changed. There was a distance between us that I just could not seem to bridge. I tried my best to ignore it, focusing instead on making Ethan laugh and making sure he enjoyed his meals, but every week, the unease inside me grew stronger. One day, the pieces began to fall into place. I had taken the day off work and decided to surprise Anna by making a reservation at the restaurant where we usually had our Saturday dinners. I wanted to plan something special for our anniversary, hoping to rekindle the romance that felt like it was slipping away. As I walked in, I saw Anna sitting alone at a table, her eyes fixed on the entrance. She did not notice me. I watched from a distance as the waiter, someone we knew well from all our visits, approached her. He leaned in close, whispered something in her ear, and then walked away with a smirk. Anna glanced around nervously before getting up and heading toward the restroom. My heart pounded in my chest as I followed her, my mind spinning with all kinds of possibilities. I reached the restroom just in time to see her slip inside, and a chill ran down my spine as I realized what might be happening. Fueled by a mix of anger and dread, I pushed the door open, determined to find out what was really going on. The restroom door creaked as I stepped in, my pulse quickening. The pounding of my heart drowned out the background noise of the bustling restaurant. As I ventured further inside, I caught the quiet murmur of conversation coming from one of the stalls. My worst fears seemed to come true as I moved closer, trying to hear. "Are you sure he suspects nothing?" I recognized the waiter's voice. It was casual and confident in a way that made my skin crawl. "I am positive. He has no clue," Anna replied, her voice sounding both reassuring and annoyed. "Just make sure you keep your distance tonight. We cannot afford any mistakes." A surge of betrayal and anger crashed over me, my hands trembling as I clenched them into fists. The reality of the situation was becoming painfully clear. The woman I had trusted most was standing behind that door, conspiring with another man. My mind raced through all our memories together, trying to make sense of how we had ended up here. Suddenly, the door opened, and the waiter stepped out, nearly bumping into me. His eyes widened, and we froze for a moment. Then, without thinking, I grabbed him by the collar and shoved him against the wall. "What the hell is going on here?" I demanded, my voice shaking with rage. Anna came out of the stall, her face a mix of horror and guilt. "David, please, it is not what it looks like," she stammered, her hands held up like she was pleading with me. "Not what it looks like?" I repeated, my grip on the waiter tightening. "I think it is exactly what it looks like, Anna." The waiter squirmed, trying to free himself. Let go of me, man. This is not the place for a scene, he said, attempting to sound authoritative but failing miserably. Ignoring him, I turned my attention fully to Anna. How long, Anna? How long have you been lying to me? Sneaking around with this guy? Anna's eyes darted around, searching for an escape from this impossible situation. It just happened, okay? It was not planned. I did not mean for it to go this far. How far has it gone? I shot back, the ache in my chest growing more hollow with each word. How long have you been betraying me? She hesitated, her silence telling me everything I needed to know. My grip on the waiter's collar loosened, and I let go, taking a step back to steady myself. The enormity of her betrayal overwhelmed me, and I struggled to keep my composure. The waiter took the opportunity to straighten his uniform, trying to regain some control over himself. Look, man, it is just a fling. No need to blow this out of proportion. Just a fling? I repeated, my voice dropping to a dangerously low tone. You have been messing with my family, with my marriage, and you call it just a fling? Anna's eyes filled with tears, but I could not bring myself to feel any sympathy for her. David, I am so sorry, she whispered, her voice cracking. But her words felt empty, echoing in a place that used to be filled with love and trust. I never wanted to hurt you or Ethan. It just happened, and I could not stop it, she said, looking down. The urge to yell, to break something, was overwhelming. But knowing Ethan was home, waiting for us, completely unaware of the chaos about to unfold, kept me from losing control. I could not let go now, not when it mattered so much. Get out, I told him, my voice cold and steady. Leave this place, and do not ever come near my wife again. He looked over at Anna, who nodded in agreement, and without another word, he slipped out of the restroom, leaving just the two of us alone in a silence thick with betrayal and shattered trust. We need to talk, I said finally, my voice barely a whisper. But not here. Let us go home. Anna nodded, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. As we walked out of the restroom, the familiar warmth of the restaurant felt foreign, distant. A place that had once been special for us, now forever marked by this moment. We drove home in silence, the tension between us so strong I could almost feel it. My mind was racing with thoughts, each one more painful than the last. I knew the conversation awaiting us would be anything but easy, yet I needed answers and a sense of where we would go from here. The timing could not have been worse. The next day was Thanksgiving, and both our families were supposed to gather at our house. Anna and I barely spoke that night. The air was thick with unspoken words and tension. When dawn came, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to process everything that had happened. Part of me wanted to call everyone and cancel the gathering, but I knew that would raise too many questions. I had to hold it together, put on a brave face, if only for Ethan's sake. By the time I came downstairs, Anna was already up, moving around the kitchen like everything was perfectly normal. She had the table set with our best china and was preparing the turkey. The smell of roasting vegetables and fresh bread filled the air, but it did little to lift my spirits. "Good morning," she said quietly, not looking at me. "Morning," I replied, my voice strained. "Need any help?" She shook her head. "No, I have it under control, thank you." I forced a smile and went to check on Ethan, who was still asleep. Watching him lie there, so peaceful and unaware of the storm surrounding us, brought a lump to my throat. I wished I could protect him from everything that was happening. I threw myself into Thanksgiving preparations, anything to keep my mind occupied. I set up extra chairs, checked that we had enough silverware, and even added some festive touches to the living room. But no matter what I did, the events of the previous day kept playing in my mind, eating away at me. Around noon, the doorbell rang, and my parents arrived, early as usual. I forced a smile, opened the door, and greeted them with hugs. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mom, Dad," I said, hoping they did not notice the strain in my voice. "Happy Thanksgiving, David," my mom replied, pulling me into a tight hug. "Everything looks wonderful. You both did a great job." "Thank you, Mom," I said, stepping aside to let them in. Anna's parents arrived next, followed by her sister and her family. Each new arrival brought a wave of forced smiles and strained small talk. I noticed the same tension in Anna's eyes, though she tried her best to hide it. We were both just playing our parts, trying to keep up appearances for the sake of everyone else. As we sat down around the table for the Thanksgiving meal, I took my seat at the head, with Anna on my right and Ethan on my left. My father offered to say grace, and we all bowed our heads. His words were filled with gratitude and hope, but I could not focus. My mind was trapped in that restroom from the day before, haunted by the betrayal. Dinner was a blur of conversation and laughter. I did my best to engage, to participate in the joy everyone else seemed to be feeling, but it was like trying to swim against a powerful current. My thoughts kept drifting back to the lies, the betrayal, and the uncertainty of what lay ahead. "David, could you pass the gravy?" My father's voice snapped me back to the present. "Of course," I said, handing it over and forcing another smile. "Sorry, I was just lost in thought." Throughout the meal, I kept glancing at Anna. She was doing a remarkable job of keeping up appearances, laughing at jokes and making small talk as if nothing had happened. But every so often, our eyes would meet, and for just a second, the facade would crack, revealing the pain and guilt beneath. After dinner, we moved to the living room for dessert and coffee. Ethan was showing his grandparents some drawings he had made at school, and I watched with a mix of pride and sadness. This was supposed to be a time of joy and togetherness, but all I felt was a gnawing emptiness. As the evening wore on and our guests began to leave, my mother pulled me aside. "David, are you all right? You seem a bit off today." I forced a reassuring smile. "I am fine, Mom. Just a lot on my mind with work and everything. Nothing to worry about." She studied me for a moment, then nodded. "If you say so. Just remember, we are here for you, no matter what." "Thanks, Mom," I said, giving her a hug. "I appreciate it." Once the last guest had left, and the house was quiet again, Anna and I found ourselves facing each other in the kitchen. The silence between us was suffocating. "Thank you for today," she said softly. "I know it was not easy," I said, nodding, too exhausted to say much more. "We need to talk, Anna, but not tonight. I cannot handle it right now." She nodded, her eyes welling up with tears. "I understand," she whispered. I turned and headed upstairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. As I reached our bedroom, I knew the hardest conversations were still ahead, but for tonight, all I wanted was to escape into sleep, to find a temporary refuge from this storm. The morning after Thanksgiving, the house felt eerily quiet. The festive decorations and leftover food seemed like remnants of a different life, a happier one that now felt out of reach. Anna and I had avoided the inevitable confrontation for too long. I knew it was time to face reality and start making decisions. I found Anna sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. She looked up as I entered, her eyes red and puffy from crying. We stared at each other for a moment, the weight of everything unsaid hanging between us. "David, we need to talk," she finally said, her voice trembling. "Yes, we do," I replied, taking a seat across from her. "But first, I need the truth. How long has this been going on?" Anna took a deep breath, her hands shaking slightly. "It started a few months ago. I never meant for it to happen, but it did." A surge of anger rose within me, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Why, Anna? Why did you do this to us?" She looked down, unable to meet my eyes. "I do not know. It just happened. We started talking, and one thing led to another. It was a mistake, David. I realize that now. I love you, and I want to make this work. Please, let us try to fix this." I shook my head, feeling the sting of betrayal all over again. "I do not know if I can, Anna. You have broken my trust in a way that is hard to repair." Tears streamed down her face as she reached out to grab my hand. "David, please. I will do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes. I cannot lose you and Ethan. We can get through this." I pulled my hand away, standing up and pacing the room. "Anna, you made a choice. You chose to betray me, to betray our family. I cannot just sweep that under the rug. I need time to think, to figure out what I want." She stood up, desperation in her eyes. "Do you not see? We have a life together, a family. Please, Do not throw it all away. I sighed, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on me. I am not the one who threw it away, Anna. You did that the moment you decided to cheat. The days that followed were filled with tension and silence. Anna continued to beg for another chance, but my heart was hardened by the betrayal. I needed space to think, to process everything. One evening, after putting Ethan to bed, I told Anna that I had decided to file for divorce. No, David, she pleaded, her voice breaking. We can work through this. Do not do this to us, to Ethan. I am sorry, Anna, I said, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. But I cannot live like this. I cannot pretend everything is okay when it is not. Her expression changed, a flash of anger replacing the desperation. If you do this, I will make sure you regret it, she said, her voice cold. I will tell the court that you cheated on me, that you have been neglecting Ethan. I will make sure you lose everything. I stared at her in shock. What are you talking about? You know that is not true. She shrugged, a bitter smile on her lips. Courts believe what they want to believe, David. I will make sure they see things my way. You will be lucky if you get to see Ethan at all. Her threat hung in the air, and a chill ran down my spine. I took a deep breath. Why would you do that, Anna? Why would you hurt Ethan just to get back at me? Because I will not let you take him from me, she said, her eyes blazing with determination. I will do whatever it takes to keep my family together. I shook my head, feeling a mix of disbelief and anger. You are willing to destroy everything, to lie and manipulate, just to keep control? I do not have a choice, she said, her voice trembling. I cannot lose Ethan. I cannot lose you. The realization hit me hard. Anna was willing to go to any lengths to keep her version of our family intact, even if it meant destroying my relationship with Ethan. I knew I had to protect myself and my son from the fallout. Anna, this is not the way to fix things, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. You are only making it worse. She crossed her arms, her expression defiant. I will not let you take him from me, David. You can try to fight me, but I promise you, I will not back down. A sense of despair washed over me. The woman I once loved was now a stranger, someone willing to lie and manipulate to get her way. I knew I had to prepare for a battle, not just for myself, but for Ethan. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations and painful conversations. I gathered evidence, prepared my case, and steeled myself for the fight ahead. Anna's threats echoed in my mind, but I was determined to protect my relationship with Ethan. In the weeks that followed, the house that was once a haven of love and warmth became a battlefield of tension and strategy. I spent my days consulting with lawyers and gathering evidence, determined to counter Anna's threats and protect my relationship with Ethan. Every night, the silence between Anna and me grew heavier, filled with unspoken accusations and looming conflicts. I knew that this was no longer just about me. This was about Ethan and ensuring he had a stable, loving environment, despite the storm tearing our family apart. I could not let Anna's threats become a reality. My focus became clear. I had to fight not just for custody, but for the truth to prevail. One afternoon, I met with my attorney, Emily. She was sharp, experienced, and known for her straightforward approach. I needed someone like her on my side, I thought, feeling a new sense of determination. David, we need to gather as much evidence as possible to counter her claims, Emily said, her voice steady and professional. Do you have any documentation, texts, or emails that could support your case? I nodded, handing over my phone and a folder filled with printed texts and emails. I have compiled everything I could find. There is nothing incriminating against me, and these messages show Anna's frequent absences and questionable behavior. Emily flipped through the documents, her brow furrowing in concentration. This is good, but we need more. Witnesses, character references, anything that can show your role as a father and her recent behavior. I thought for a moment and then said, our neighbors, the ones we have known for years. They have seen me with Ethan almost every day. They can testify to my involvement in his life. Perfect, Emily replied, making a note. We will also need to consider a psychological evaluation. It can show that you are a stable and fit parent. Anna's threats to use false information could backfire if we present a solid case. As we discussed strategy, a sense of purpose grew within me. I had felt lost and betrayed, but now I had a goal to work toward. I left Emily's office feeling more hopeful than I had in weeks. Back at home, the tension was palpable. Anna avoided eye contact, focusing on Ethan and pretending everything was normal. But every now and then, our eyes would meet, and the unspoken conflict would flare up between us. One evening, as I was helping Ethan with his homework, Anna entered the room. She watched us for a moment, her expression unreadable. "David, can we talk?" she asked, her voice softer than it had been in days. I looked up, wary but willing to listen. "Sure." She led me to the living room, away from Ethan's ears. "I do not want this to get ugly," she said, her voice trembling. "I said things out of anger, and I regret it. Can we find a way to settle this without dragging Ethan through a court battle?" I sighed, feeling a mix of frustration and sorrow. "Anna, I do not want a war either, but you threatened to take Ethan away from me. You threatened to lie and manipulate the truth. How am I supposed to trust you after that?" She looked down, tears welling up in her eyes. "I was scared, David. I still love you, and the thought of losing everything just made me panic. But I do not want to hurt Ethan. He needs both of us." "Then we need to be honest and fair," I said firmly. "If you truly want what is best for Ethan, we need to work together, not against each other." Anna nodded slowly, wiping her tears. "You are right. I am sorry for everything. Let us try to find a way to co-parent amicably." It was a start, but I knew it would not be that simple. Trust had been shattered, and rebuilding it would take time, if it was even possible. But for Ethan's sake, I was willing to try. The next few weeks were a delicate dance of cooperation and cautious steps. Anna and I attended mediation sessions, trying to work out a fair custody arrangement. We agreed to alternate weeks with Ethan, ensuring he spent time with both of us. We also decided to seek counseling, not necessarily to save our marriage, but to learn how to navigate this painful new chapter as co-parents. As Christmas approached, I could see the strain this was putting on Ethan. He was too young to understand everything, but he sensed the tension. I made it my mission to ensure his holiday season was joyful, filling our days with decorating, baking cookies, and watching festive movies. One evening, as we sat by the fire, Ethan snuggled up to me and asked, "Daddy, will Santa still come if we do not all live together?" My heart ached at his innocence. "Of course, buddy. Santa will always come as long as we believe in him. And no matter what, Mommy and Daddy will always love you." His eyes brightened a bit, and he hugged me tightly. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, Ethan," I whispered, holding him close. Christmas came and went, and despite the underlying tension, it was filled with moments of genuine joy and togetherness. Anna and I managed to put aside our differences for Ethan's sake, creating a semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. As the new year began, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The road ahead was uncertain and filled with challenges, but I was determined to face them head-on. For Ethan, for myself, and for the chance to build a stronger future. Just as the new year was beginning to offer a sliver of normalcy, an unexpected twist disrupted our fragile peace. My boss called me into his office one Monday morning, his expression serious. "David, I need to talk to you about something important," he began, gesturing for me to take a seat. "Sure, what is up?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual despite the unease settling in my stomach. "We have landed a major client on the West Coast, and they need someone on site to oversee the project for the next few months. Your name came up as the best fit for the job." I blinked, taken aback. "The West Coast? But that is across the country. What about my responsibilities here?" "We have considered that, and while it is a significant change, this is a huge opportunity for both you and the company. We need someone with your expertise, David. It will not be easy, but it is a chance to advance your career." My mind raced. This was the worst possible timing, given everything happening at home. I appreciate the opportunity, but I have a lot going on personally right now. I do not know if I can just up and leave, I told my boss, the weight of the decision pressing on me. He leaned forward, his expression sympathetic. "I understand, David, but this is a critical project, and we need our best people on it. Think it over, but know that we really need you for this." I left his office with my mind in turmoil. The thought of leaving Ethan, especially now, felt unbearable. But the pressure from work and the potential for career growth made it hard to refuse outright. That evening, after putting Ethan to bed, I sat down with Anna to talk. "I need to discuss something with you," I began, feeling the gravity of the situation. "Sure. What is it?" she asked, looking at me with a wary expression. "I have been offered a business trip to the West Coast. They want me to oversee a major project for the next few months. It is a big opportunity, but the timing is terrible." Anna's eyes widened. "The West Coast? That is a long way." "I know," I said, running a hand through my hair. "I do not want to leave Ethan, especially now, but I also do not want to risk my career." "I am torn, Anna." She sighed, her shoulders slumping. "It is not ideal, but maybe it is for the best. This might give us some space to figure things out. I can handle things here with Ethan." I was surprised by her willingness to cooperate, but I still felt cautious. "Are you sure? This means you will have to manage everything, including Ethan's routine." She nodded, a hint of determination in her eyes. "I can do it, David. You focus on your work. We will be okay." The following days were a whirlwind of preparations. I arranged for a temporary adjustment to our custody agreement and ensured everything was documented to avoid misunderstandings. I spent as much time with Ethan as possible, explaining that Dad had to go away for work but would be back soon. One night, as I was tucking him in, he looked up and asked, "Dad, will you miss me?" "More than anything, buddy," I replied, hugging him tightly. "But I will call you every day, and we can video chat. It will be like I am not even gone." "Promise?" he asked, his big eyes full of worry. "I promise," I said, feeling my heart break a little. The day of my departure arrived too soon. Anna and Ethan drove me to the airport, and saying goodbye was harder than I had anticipated. As I hugged Ethan one last time, I whispered, "Be good for Mommy, okay? I will be back before you know it." "Okay, Dad," he said, tears glistening in his eyes. "I love you." "I love you too, Ethan," I said, fighting back my own tears. The flight across the country felt surreal. My mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions, trying to balance the excitement of the opportunity with the dread of leaving my son and the unresolved tension at home. This trip could be a turning point in my career, but I could not shake the feeling that it might also be a turning point for my family, for better or for worse. Once on the West Coast, I was thrown into a hectic schedule of meetings, planning sessions, and site visits. The demands of the project left little time to dwell on personal troubles, but every night after the long days, I made sure to call Ethan. Hearing his voice, even through the phone, was a balm for my weary soul. "Hi, Dad." Ethan's voice was always cheerful, filling me with a warmth and connection I desperately needed. "Hey, buddy, how was your day?" I asked, eager to hear every detail. "It was good. Mommy and I went to the park, and I played on the swings." "I miss you, Dad." "I miss you too, Ethan, but remember, I will be back soon. We can do all those fun things together again." The calls with Anna were brief and businesslike, focused on logistics and updates about Ethan. She seemed to be handling things well, but there was always an underlying tension, a reminder of the fragile peace we were maintaining. One evening, as I was wrapping up an exhausting day, I received a text from Anna. "We need to talk. Call me when you can." My heart sank, and I dialed her number immediately, anxiety gnawing at me. "Anna, what is going on?" "David, I have been thinking a lot about everything," she began, her voice shaky. "This distance is making me realize how much I want to fix things between us. I know I messed up, but I want to try for real this time." I was taken aback. "Anna, I do not know if it is that simple. There is a lot of hurt, a lot of broken trust." "I know," she replied, her voice breaking, "but I am willing to do whatever it takes. Therapy, counseling, anything. I just do not want to lose you." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. "I need time to think about this, Anna. We both need to make sure this is really what we want and not just a reaction to the distance." "I understand," she said softly. "Just please consider it. For us. For Ethan." As I hung up, I felt more conflicted than ever. The trip had provided a temporary escape, but the reality of our situation was still waiting for me back home. The choices we made in the coming weeks would shape our family's future, and I was not sure if we could ever truly mend what had been broken. One afternoon, after a particularly grueling series of meetings, I decided to take a break and clear my mind. I found a small, cozy cafe along the coast with large windows offering a breathtaking view of the ocean. Sitting alone, I sipped my coffee, staring out at the waves, lost in thought about the mess my life had become. The door jingled as it opened, and I glanced up to see Rachel, one of my colleagues who had come on the business trip with our team. She spotted me and smiled, making her way over to my table. "Hey, David," she said cheerfully, taking the seat across from me. "Mind if I join you?" "Not at all," I replied, managing a small smile. "How is it going?" "Busy as always," she said with a sigh. But I could not resist taking a break. "This place is a great find." We chatted about work for a few minutes, the easy conversation a welcome distraction. But soon, Rachel picked up on my distracted demeanor. "Is everything okay, David?" she asked gently. "You seem off, like something is bothering you." I hesitated, unsure if I should share my personal troubles, but the weight of everything was becoming too much to bear alone. Taking a deep breath, I decided to open up. "It is a long story," I began, my voice tinged with exhaustion. "Anna and I, things have been really rough lately. I found out she has been cheating on me." Rachel's eyes widened with surprise and sympathy. "Oh, David, I am so sorry. That is awful." "Yeah," I replied, shaking my head slightly. "It has been a nightmare." You have listened to the first part of the story. The continuation of this story will be in the next video. What do you think about this story? Write in comments. If you don't follow our channel Cheating Room, you will probably never hear from us again. If you are subscribed, congratulations, you will not miss any exciting story. Thank you for listening to this shocking story with us. See you again.
Bye bye.